Hello, my name is Kyle Siren, Customer Risk Manager with Ardent Mill Solutions. Since we last filmed the Inside Scoop, we learned what a derecho is and what kind of damage it can do to crops in Iowa. Watched the Midwest dry up at an important time for corn and soybean development. Witnessed the US dollar trade to its weakest levels in 2.5 years. Saw several reports which stated US corn, soybeans, and wheat were being exported to China. Heard about excellent spring wheat harvest results in the US and Canada, and observed a rather significant US futures rally. There are a lot of new factors to consider, and the USDA released a new report on September 11th. With a lot of different topics to cover, let's dive into this edition of the Inside Scoop. Welcome to the September edition of the Inside Scoop. The USDA made no changes to the U.S. wheat supply-demand situation, and the U.S. is still forecasted to have a 925 million bushel carryout on June 1st, 2021. As you can see, this is lower than the past few years, but still much larger than almost all of the previous marketing years starting in 2001 and ending in 2015. From a global perspective, major wheat exporter production increased over 3.5 million metric tons from last month's USDA forecast. Australia saw its forecasted wheat production raised 2.5 million metric tons. Canada saw its forecasted wheat production raised 2 million metric tons, and the EU saw a 650,000 metric ton increase in its forecasted wheat production. Argentina saw its production forecast lowered by 1 million metric tons. Russia saw its forecast remain at 78 million metric tons. This came as a bit of a surprise, as many in the marketplace were talking about a potential 81 to 83 million metric ton crop. At the moment, the USDA is forecasting a slightly smaller crop than a year ago from the Big 8 exporters. Despite this, it is still possible to see this marketing year's production exceed last year's. This will depend on weather in the Southern Hemisphere and its impact on the wheat crop over the next few months, as well as the final numbers for Russia and the Canadian crops. And the market seems to be thinking both of those could be larger than the USDA forecast. Corn prices have rallied almost 50 cents from a month ago. The lack of rainfall in August and the derecho have hurt the U.S. corn crop. The USDA lowered its projected yield forecast to 178.5 bushels the acre. As you can see, this is still a record yield, but is over 3 bushels the acre smaller than last month's forecast. The USDA also lowered U.S. harvested acres by 500,000 acres. This resulted in a loss of 378 million bushels of corn from last month's forecast. 378 million bushels is roughly a 2.5% drop in U.S. corn production. The USDA showed that demand is moving in different directions. The USDA cut both U.S. ethanol and feed demand 100 million bushels for the 2020-2021 marketing year. However, U.S. corn exports were raised 100 million bushels, which is very close to a new record. China has been a significant buyer of U.S. corn, but we will spend more time on China later. Altogether, the USDA is forecasting a quite comfortable 2.5 billion bushel corn carryout, with questions remaining about both supply and demand. On soybeans, the USDA lowered U.S. soybean yields by almost 1.5 bushels the acre. 51.9 bushels the acre is almost a record, but it is a big drop from the August 53.3 bushels the acre forecast. This drop in yield leads to a 112 million bushel drop in forecasted U.S. soybean production. U.S. soybean exports and crush demand were left unchanged from last month's estimate. The USDA is forecasting a 460 million bushel carryout and a 10.4 stocks-to-use ratio. You can see this is a far cry from the recent burdensome stock situations, but it is still not forecast to be a tight situation like the mid-2000s to mid-2010s. The USDA is forecasting an increase of almost 5% in Brazilian bean plantings and over 5% increase in Brazilian soybean production from a year ago. This is needed to help balance demand especially when Chinese demand appears to be growing. The biggest wildcard just might be Chinese demand. Looking at things from a U.S. wheat perspective, the U.S. is a little over 3 months into the 2020-2021 marketing year. So far, you can see that the U.S. has sold just under 1.5 million metric tons of wheat to China. The USDA increased overall Chinese wheat imports 1 million metric tons to 7 million metric tons. China has also been buying wheat from other countries other than the U.S. China's World Trade Organization quota for wheat imports is just over 9 million metric tons. In corn, the USDA left Chinese imports unchanged at 7 million metric tons for the 2020-2021 marketing year. The issue is that the U.S. has already sold 8.8 million metric tons of corn to China this marketing year, with rumors of more to come. In soybeans, the USDA left Chinese soybean import forecasts unchanged at 99 million metric tons. This is only 1 million metric tons higher than what China imported this past marketing year. Many in the marketplace are talking about higher numbers for China in the coming months. The bottom line is that the USDA is being conservative with Chinese demand for grains and oilseeds. To take a closer look at these numbers, we combine the USDA's forecasts of U.S. corn, U.S. soybeans, and U.S. wheat for this marketing year and looked at the exports of these three commodities over the past several years as well. Even with their conservative lens, the USDA is forecasting an increase in combined corn, beans, and wheat exports of over 1 billion bushels from last marketing year, which is a nearly 25% increase. The U.S.'s ability to export an even higher number than these conservative estimates may be tested. The U.S. is close to a record combined corn, soybean, and wheat exports. In summary, world wheat crops appear to be increasing, and with the expected good weather the next 2 to 3 months, major world wheat exporters can produce more wheat than they did a year ago. U.S. corn and soybean crops are forecasted to be smaller than what was forecasted a month ago, and harvest will begin in earnest soon across the Midwest. China is a significant question to market participants. Will they buy 10 million tons of wheat and 20 million tons of corn from the world, as some are suggesting? Or are the conservative forecasts from the USDA on China closer to what will actually happen? Looks like we'll have to find out over the next few months. If you have questions about how all of this might affect you and your business, please feel free to drop me an email. We hope all of you are staying safe. Thank you for watching and have a great day.